muslin finer than the morning mist, jamdanis woven like poetry, silks that gleamed like liquid gold, and katha where every stitch carried memories. These textiles adorned emperors, queens and courts across continents. By the 1700s, the land contributed nearly 12% of the world's GDP. Its wealth and artistry unrivaled. A place whose looms shaped global fashion, whose craft defined an era. This was Bengal.
These traditions and practices have been traveling through time.
When I buy a sari, I try to see what history it has.
We can get a glimpse of the past.
It's for each one of us to understand that history is important. What is at the grassroots is important. What is past is very important.
Through this practice, the way they are experiencing time, we can also experience time backward.
The textiles of Bengal, which used to clothe the world at one point of time.
যখন আর্থিক অবস্থা খুব খারাপ ছিল তখন আমরা শিখেছি
হাতের কাজ পাকা এটা সেটা করতাম, সেগুলো তো আর এখন আর হচ্ছে না।
এই দুর্দিনের জন্যই আমার টাঙ্গাইল শাড়িতে শিল্পীগুলো এটা সব অন্য রাস্তায় চলে যাচ্ছে।
দুর্ভাগ্য আমাদের, এটা নিয়ে সরকার কিন্তু কোনো মাথা ঘামালো না।
সময় ছিল, সুযোগ ছিল, শুধু একটু শুভ ইচ্ছের দরকার ছিল।
তারা এক কথা বলে গেল, মডার্ন টেকনোলজি তোমাদের নিতে হবে, এটাকে অস্বীকার করলে হবে না।
It's one of the worst things that had happened to India. Absolutely.
পাওয়ার লুমকে তোমাদের অ্যাডাপ্ট করতে হবে, নাহলে মরো তোমরা।
যেটা হচ্ছে সেটা হচ্ছে শিল্পটার সর্বনাশ হচ্ছে।
So what really happened to all of this? Why are we in this state currently? It's whether it's West Bengal we're talking about or Bangladesh we are talking about. Why are we in the state that we are? The changes that came about, what really impacted all of this? Whether it was the Indigo mutiny, or it was the Bengal famine, or it was the migration, or it was the Swadeshi movement, or it was all these people who came in, the Portuguese came, then the Danish and Dutch came, powers that came in, the influences that happened. And what really happened in this entire geographical change, this political change, cultural, this socio-economic change, that impacted the textiles of Bengal.
In the 17th century, the English East India Company first set foot in Bengal as mere traders drawn by its promise of wealth. Their arrival was not political, only commercial. But as they discovered the unmatched artistry and resources of Bengal, their ambitions deepened. Slowly, trade turned to control.
The world came to us because we were prolific, open to trade, and wanted to make things happen.
Indian textiles demonstrated the varieties of cotton wear that you can produce and the varieties of colors that you can apply on them.
So 17th, 18th century, you had these huge movements and migrations of people from rural parts of Europe to the cities. What happens in that context is that fashion becomes a very important aspect.
How did we get jamdani at the border areas, or how did Nakshi Katha come into a repertoire into the Bengal Katha?
বাংলাদেশে বিভিন্ন রকমের নকশি কাঁথা আছে। জামালপুর তো একটা হয়ে গেছে, কিন্তু জামালপুরের কাঁথা একটু অন্যরকম। চাঁপাইনবাবগঞ্জে 3 রকমের কাঁথা। ফরিদপুরে আগে একরকম কাঁথা হতো, যশোরে একরকম কাঁথা হবে।
The kind of figuration, depiction of rural landscapes, everyday objects, people that you might find, say, in Punjab in the Bagh or the Pulkari. And then you have these absolutely distinct, repertoires of design and motifs and patterns, like, say, the human figures in the Baluchari, which you don't find anywhere else really in the same way.
Many parts of Europe, in major museums, the Victoria and Albert Museum has a substantial collection of muslin goods from India. That's Bengal. Muslins are primarily a Bengal product, at least the ones that became global.
The sheer fineness of the fabric, the sheer transparency of them, the whiteness and the shades of whiteness. If the Inuits had so many names for white.
আমাদের একটা জিনিস বুঝতে হবে যে জামদানি কিন্তু কোনো ডবি বা জ্যাকার্ড কৌশলগত তাঁত নয়, এটা সিম্পলি দুই ঝাপের একটা তাঁত।
Dyes, textiles can be so powerful in a way that it can move a community, it can move a country, it creates the entire geopolitics of this entire world.
In 1757 came a defining moment, the Battle of Plassey. The last Nawab of Bengal was defeated by Robert Clive of the East India Company. This single battle shifted the course of history, giving the British political control over Bengal.
In the beginning, it was okay. It used to come as a body and used to buy. When they started settling all these factors in different places, that's when the torture and all that began. Especially the Gobustas and Tikadars. And the weavers, they were called Boka. Why? Because they were very simple people. They could weave such marvel and the salary was so low, but they didn't mind.
What they went through as a community, the hurt and the pain, the marks were so deep that they never spoke about it.
Where India is located is a major producer of dyeing material. So the color use tradition is extremely well developed here. There are lots of dye agents that you find.
Like, say, for instance, the indigo color used almost like an exchange, like gold. So it was called blue gold. It really changed the whole politics of the entire world because people wanted to have control on the indigo. And that's why the Bengal indigo revolt happened, where they protested against the British, and although they were mercilessly killed and they were tortured, but still they didn't plant a seed of indigo.
It was the spiritual and philosophical need to bring in things which can have different possibilities. And indigo is something which you cannot control mechanically. No? You have to use your senses to dye. You have to use your eyes, your smell. You have to hear indigo. You have to taste it. And these senses are something which is endangered. I picked natural dye because I wanted to use indigo, talk about it, because it's one of the oldest dye we have used, human being.
In the late 18th century, Britain was already experimenting with different types of looms. Some of them are much faster looms. Some of them are spinning machines, which are much faster, which could produce hanks of yarn at the same time. The newspaper letter from, I think, 1820s, a Bengali woman who is saying that, when my husband died and I was quite young with children, and I was advised by neighbors and well-wishers that you can take up spinning because many other women were doing it.
And she started spinning. And the weavers used to come, but she didn't have to go to the market. One day it stopped. She wondered what happened. She went to the market. Then she saw
that the English yarn had come into the market. They were cheaper, they were finer. Weavers wanted that product, so they were not coming to her anymore. And then she ends with the message that if I am worse off, how much more worse off will be the English spinners, the women, my counterparts in England, who are suffering probably much more than I am.
the Dukkini, poor thing. So it all stopped when the Manchester Yard came. That was very sad, very sad. And not only that, they used to get the designs of the border, these colonial people, done by our weavers, and they used to learn the technique, and then they were producing the same borders in the mill and sending it here. So this is the way they ruined our textile trade.
When I work with the weavers, I get inspired by the skill they know, which has been inherited by them from their forefathers, by the history like indigo. When Gandhiji called for Satyagraha movement and boycotted all foreign goods, the weavers would spin and weave their own fabric, and that became the symbol of the freedom struggle, the khadi, the khaddar.
But the other bigger impact was creating an interest in indigenous tradition. A large number of people became interested in knowing how ordinary artisans, peasants lived, how they worked, what they did, what they earned, what they consumed. And as part of that, quite a lot of studies were done of handloom weavers, more probably in Bengal than elsewhere.
Fantastic things were woven at that time in Shantipur. Even saris, one side gold, one side silver. That kind of saris used to be. They didn't need any cotton or silk yarn with golden thread at the end. They're called Kalavati saris. They were so beautiful, but they all went abroad. Everything went abroad. How they have exploited us.
This classic novel by Tagore, Ghore Baire, which is a movement to boycott foreign textiles. That was quite extensive, and it was again an extremely powerful moment for Bengal.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
1947, the moment of freedom, but with a wound that would never heal. The Ratcliffe line cut through Bengal like a blade, dividing land, families and traditions overnight. What was once a shared fabric of culture and craft was torn apart into two nations, India and East Pakistan. Weavers fled homes. Artisans struggled to stitch life back together.
What has not been documented, it's time to document. How these people were affected, what happened really, how the skills got transferred.
আমার টাঙ্গাইল যে জেলাটা এখন টাঙ্গাইলের পাশে আশোকপুর গ্রাম, পিসি সরকারের বাড়ি ছিল, তার পাশে আমার বাড়ি ছিল। যখন সকালে উঠি বাবা দেখি কান্না করছে, তখন আমার 9 বছর বয়স। দেখে ওই বাড়ির লোক ঘর আছে, লোক নেই, একটা লোকও নেই, মানে সব ইন্ডিয়া চলে এসছে। পরের দিন দেখছে আর দুবারই নেই। তারপর দেখছে প্রায় এরকম করে গ্রামটা ফাঁকা হয়ে গেল। তখন বাবা দেখলো যে এই বাচ্চা নিয়ে আমি কি করে থাকবো, তখনও বাবা এই দেশে আসার জন্য পাড়ি দিল।
আমাদের যখন বলছি স্বর্ণযুগ, তখন ফুলিয়াতে প্রায় 60-65 হাজার মতো তাঁত চলতো। এখন সম্ভবত 5%ও চলে না।
The change of ownership of one of the most populated and poorest parts of the world is now being confirmed.
Yeah, the GI, especially when it was introduced, the geographical indication, it that's when it started separating the two borders, what happened there and what happened here. My entire point is that we need to think beyond borders. Because what has happened is that every person there who's got affected has a backstory to tell. Are we really listening to that story?
আলমে আমার এই সুতোই করেছে, সুতো না, সেটা হচ্ছে কি আমাদের একদম তুলোর থেকে সুতো, আর ওদের যে সুতোটা তৈরি হচ্ছে হাফ পলিস্টার আর হাফ তুলো দিয়ে তৈরি করা, ওটা পাড়ি করতে হয় না, হ্যাঁ ওটা ঢোপ করে কোম্পানি থেকে বেরিয়ে আসতো, ওই মালদের তৈরি করতে।
তখন আস্তে আস্তে হ্যান্ডলুম পিছিয়ে যেতে লাগলো, আর পাওয়ারলুম বেশ কিছু তাঁতিকে মহাজনরা টেনে নিল পাওয়ারলুমের অপারেটর হিসাবে, আর কিছু তাঁতি অন্য পেশার দিকে ঝুঁকে গেল।
Every day, if they can work, they earn. The day they don't work, they don't earn. It is very, very simple. So they want to earn on a regular basis. So they need work throughout the year.
খুব দুঃখের গল্প আমাদের, আজকে আমরা এই পারে এসে নিঃস্ব। সরকার আমাদেরকে সিটিজেন দিয়েছে, কিন্তু সেভাবে সিটিজেন দেয়নি, ওই কাগজটাই পাওয়া গেছে।
আমাদের তাঁতিদেরকে যেমন শিল্পী বলা হতো, আর তাদের হাতের কাজটাই ছিল আসল।
Everything is by hand, whether it's dyeing the yarn, dyeing the fabrics, hand block printing, steaming, processing, making the dyes, mixing them, to tie and dyes, to weaving, to hand painting, to tailoring, everything is by hand. The mission statement came from that use as many hands as possible.
আর এই হাতের স্পর্শ ছাড়া এখন যে তাঁতি যারা আছে তাদেরকে তাঁতিও বলা যাবে না, তাদেরকে আমরা বলি সুইচ অপারেটর।
পারলুমে আমি বিশ্বাস করি না, শাড়ি হয় না ওটা। আমার বাবা বলতো কাপড় আর চোপড়, আমার কাছে ওটা চোপড় মনে হচ্ছে এখন।
আজকে আমি এই 65 বছরে দাঁড়িয়ে আমাদের এই কাজ যে শিখতে আসবে এরকম আগ্রহ আর কেউ করেনি। আগে অনেক ছেলে এসছে কাজ শিখতে।
The local terminologies are disappearing because everything is being written in English. That is good, not at the expense of the traditional terms. Uski upeksha nahi honi chahiye na, because uske sath a lot of subtleties are lost also of the materials, of the traditional systems of doing things. It's the vernacular that needs a resurgence at the same time.
4 জোর 22, 2 জোর সমান, পরে 2 সাইডে 2 পাকড়ি জোর, পরে ভিতরে 4 জোর বাইর, 4 জোর ভিতর, 2 জোর বুন্নাখার বাড়বো, মাঝখানে লত বাইর কইরা 2 সাইডের পাকড়ি 4 জোর বুন্না আবার খার বাড়বো। 27 বার পোর্শনে গেলে, সেগমেন্টে গেলে তখন এই ফুল তৈরি হয়। এরকম যত জামদানির নকশার মোটিভ আছে প্রত্যেকটা সেকশনে আলাদা করে এই ধরনের একটা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ তাদের মেমোরিতে থাকে। পৃথিবীতে খুব কম বয়ন শিল্প আছে এই মানের, যেখানে এই ধরনের বুলি শ্রুতির মাধ্যমে মেমোরাইজড হয় এবং নকশাগুলি তৈরি হতে থাকে।
বিসমিল্লাহ ধনেশ্বরী, ওস্তাদের চরণ ধরি, যে কাম ধরি সে কাম শিক্ষা করি, মা লক্ষ্মী গড়ান অলক্ষ্মী দূর কর, বিসমিল্লাহর নাম লয়ে কাম শুরু কর।
It's very important to continue this legacy. It's very important to make sure that as many hands as possible are used. That can only happen with handcrafting, and that can only happen in a country like India, which has such great handcrafting and such great numbers that wherever the world is looking today, it's looking towards India, because we still have it. We have the skill, we have the craftsmanship, we have the dedication, we have the knowledge. We have people who want to slow down their lives, who want to learn weaving, who want to sit and embroider. Keeps our legacy going, our textile legacy, our textile techniques. Besides farming, the second largest industry is textile. So I believe that if we continue to work at this and build the awareness and make people understand that it's no longer just a craft, and it's actually luxury to be able to have a textile like this on your body.
Right after we are born, the very connection which we get is with a piece of cloth. You are being washed, cleaned, processed, and wrapped. And this is a bond which exists until we die.
it's just too rich a tradition to, vanish. It's going to survive and continue in a different way.
Unless you have the stories and the intangibles with it, उसमें रस नहीं होता है. So these two things have to be protected together, and this is happening in a big way across the country.
We also have this very amazing knack for actually taking things, making them really relevant, successful. That's really in our DNA, we're a trading subcontinent.
All the top designers from all over the world, especially Italian and the European designers, the French and the American designers, are all coming to India to get their handwork done because we have the skill. We have the skill set at a price which is affordable. So that's the magic of India, is that the numbers.
Ultimately, we have to change, and in order to sustain this earth, in order to sustain the livelihood, hand looms, handmade, natural dyes, this is the solution.
This integrity we want to carry forward. We don't want to spoil it. And it's a very important value. It's about sincerity, it's about honesty with your work. And these are timeless values that are woven in the fabric of human beings around the world and civilizations.
পাখরি জুইরা এরপরেতে মাঝখানে দাও 10 খাও ঝিগির রাখা প্রথমেতে 6 খাও কইরা 2টি পাখরি জুইরা এরপরেতে মাঝখানে দাও 10 খাও ঝিগির রাখা হইব হইব রে পাঁচজোর হইব হইব রে পাঁচজোর হইব হইব রে পাঁচজোর হইব হইব রে পাঁচজোর ছয় খাও কইরা 2টি পাখরি চুইরা এরপরেতে মাঝখানে দাও 10 খাও ঝিগির রাখা হইব হইব রে পাঁচজোর হইব হইব